This also brings me to another important point. It's really not also about followers, it's also about engagement too, because if people really like you for you, they really respect and listen to what you have to say. That itself can be very valuable.
Welcome to the Learn Skin podcast with me, Dr. Raja.
And me, Dr. Hadar, where we discuss all things skin.
Join us as we delve into the art and science of skin health in today's episode.
Hey, Raja, can you say the thing I told you to tell them?
Of course. We are board-certified dermatologists. This podcast is meant for educational and informational purposes only and is not considered medical advice, nor does it serve as a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. All opinions shared do not express the views of Learn Health, Inc. Let's get to the good stuff.
Hey, Raja, how are you today?
Hey, Hadar, how are things going? By the way, are you feeling social?
You know, I am feeling social, but one thing that really scares me, and I kid you not, there's not a lot of things that scare me in life, but one thing that really scares me is social media, man. I don't know how to handle that. I get a little nervous. I tweet on the wrong place, and I just deleted the whole thing from my phone, and I'm very nervous about that. And I think a lot of practitioners would love to have some social media presence, but they're not sure how to start, how to get it right. You know what I mean?
Hadar, if you tweet, then I fly, my friend.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, seriously. I'm panicking about this stuff. I'm always worried I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm just
you know what? Anxiety be gone, because we have an awesome guest today. She's also been a part of the Integrative Dermatology Certificate Program. I think we both probably remember her from one of the first IDSs. Mamina, I know I met you there. And so I'd like to introduce Dr. Mamina Turegano. She is a dermatologist, a dermatopathologist, an integrative dermatologist, kind of a Renaissance woman, really. And she is coming to us from New Orleans in Louisiana. She has special interest in evaluating nutrition, lifestyle, sleep, environmental factors, and how they can impact things like inflammation, aging, cancer. But you've also dialed it in for social media. So we are super excited to talk to you today about all of these experiences.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the dynamic between you two. I love the intros. I've always enjoyed listening to this podcast, so I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, thank you. My mom likes that too, and she keeps saying that, Raja, so maybe there's something there.
Hey, your mom listens to this podcast, Hadar? Sorry, I mean, you can't just throw something like that on the side and not expect me to ask you about it.
She doesn't speak English well, but she listens very attentively. She follows everything
okay, I see. Yeah, my mom sent me a WhatsApp the other day. She said, "Good job, podcast." I was like, "Hey, that's pretty good."
Sounds like my mom.
Exactly. But Mamina, I think today we're going to add to your titles the social media whisperer, because we really need to calm down some of that anxiety. I think that a lot of people, regardless of the generation, by the way you're at, some people have that kind of anxiety, and you seem to very easily overcome that. But before we dive into that, maybe tell us about your practice a little bit so we understand how you kind of grew into social media.
Yeah, I am practicing, as Raja said, in New Orleans. I practice general dermatology and, combination of medical derm, cosmetic derm, surgery. I also read Derm Path, and I try to incorporate a more integrative approach with my patients. And I moved back to New Orleans after living away in DC and Los Angeles. And when I moved back, this was in 2016, there are a lot of dermatologists in New Orleans, and I kind of wanted to establish myself, make a name for myself. And so I decided to post more educational content on Instagram. And they were simple posts like just talking about the benefits of sleep, or did you know that spearmint tea can potentially be helpful for acne in the setting of PCOS? And just like little things like that to make a name for myself as, a dermatologist who may take more of a holistic or integrative approach. And it slowly was building. I would say I probably got to 10,000 followers after, 2 or 3 years of posting consistently. And TikTok, this is 2020 at the height of the pandemic. So around May, TikTok reached out to me, and because they wanted to get more educational content creators on their platform, because at the time it was a lot of dancing, a lot of lip syncing, which is of course also really entertaining, but they wanted, it to be more educational and valuable, I guess. And I don't know why or how they reached out to me. I guess I was already posting informational content. And when I started posting on TikTok, I was just posting a lot of content and I was not getting any growth whatsoever. It was getting kind of frustrating. But then all of a sudden, after one video went viral, my growth just kind of skyrocketed and it sort of fed into Instagram as well.
Let me just mention here. So on Instagram, Mamina, you have right now, I just checked 241,000 followers. And like on TikTok, you're at 902,000 followers and you've had 16.2 million likes. So I'm assuming
Whoa.
they looked at your Instagram and were like, okay, this person's pretty credible and we'd like to get her on. I mean, Mamina, this is such a service to dermatology to have someone like you. I mean, I couldn't think of anyone better to like want to have posting this stuff so that it's all believable and it's all honest and you're doing integrative medicine. I mean, Hadar, this is like amazing.
Yeah, but Raja, what I like about your story, Mamina, is that you are just, regular dermatologist.
Mm-hmm.
You just went through the training like all of us. But then, like we say so many times on this program, you decided to go the extra mile, and that's what kind of separates you from the pack. And
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
why you were noticed. So it's not
Uh-huh.
necessarily the exceptional training, although IDCP definitely makes you exceptional. But
Uh-huh.
and I'm sure you had great grades, and I'm sure your mom is very proud of you. But it's that kind of idea that I'm going to do something extra, as you said, which I really, really love. So for those of us who are listening out there and are wondering, maybe I can do this too. You mentioned that you start posting. Maybe you can break this down to us. When you say post, does that mean like what does that mean? Do you put like a video, and how much effort goes into doing that? Because a lot of us are busy and wondering, well, if I need to do this for like 3-4 years as a down payment before someone notices, and I have to produce a whole video show, that seems like a lot of time and money. Is it?
Yeah, it can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. On Instagram, you can post video content or still image content, like a photo. TikTok, it is all video. And how you want to do the video, I mean, there's an infinite number of ways. You could be pointing to, bullet points. You could be just speaking in front of the camera. With Instagram, I mean, you could post a picture of anything and like you could just post a picture of yourself like in a beautiful location and
Right.
just talk about your favorite, tips for treating acne. So there's a lot of flexibility and, it's just kind of a matter of like what you feel comfortable with.
And have you found that certain topics within dermatology had more traction than others?
Yeah, and I think it also could be more platform dependent, although, I think similar populations are on both TikTok and Instagram. But I know acne is huge, acne scarring, and then also like an anti-aging skincare routine, both of those. I think hyperpigmentation as well.
Right. I really like this because in dermatology, we're a specialized kind of group of people, and there's not a lot of us. And so getting the word out there on the very basics is so important. And a lot of
Hmm.
times patients come in to see us and they have like 10, 15 minutes in the room. And, I know I work in a medical center where a lot of people who come to see me are kind of on the severe spectrum of disease. And so it's really nice that there's a complementary kind of resource that allows people to meet them where they are, wherever they are with their
Yeah.
phones, their tablet, whatever screen they're staring at, and kind of learn something from a trusted source. So I really
Hmm.
like this. You mentioned something about, alluded to a target audience. If I'm going to start my social media presence, is there a certain media I should choose because of the target audience I have in mind? Like, is TikTok good for that kind of audience and Twitter for that kind of audience and so on and so forth?
Yeah, there's kind of benefits and special aspects to each platform. If you're not comfortable with making video, you could always resort to Instagram and just do photo posts. But I think that both platforms, Instagram and TikTok, well, Instagram is trying to move away more from photos and really they're trying to bring in more video content and they're trying to compete with TikTok, I think. But Instagram is nice because you could also post, there's also stories too, which you could post, what's going on, which those last for 24 hours and you could just kind of post what's going on in your day. The thing that's special about TikTok though is that there's a higher chance for higher reach because TikTok, your post on TikTok can land on anybody's page. And when your video is something that engages the audience, more and more people will like it, the more people that like it, the more people that comment it, the more it's going to land on other people's pages. And so it has the potential to just exponentially rise in popularity, a video post, and go viral. So you have a better chance for just organic reach and growth on TikTok. Although now I'm seeing it on Instagram too, because they're trying to compete with TikTok. But
Right.
that was the beauty of TikTok and how I grew so quickly.
So, Mamina, what was the TikTok video that made you go viral? Was it the slugging video or was it another one?
So that's a great question because I think this also ties into my interest with, just integrative medicine and integrative
Yeah.
dermatology. I do a lot of dermatology content, but I like to be that person who can kind of bridge the gap between holistic medicine and conventional medicine and provide that evidence behind holistic medicine. So my first viral video was of my mom. And for people who follow me on social media, they probably are familiar with my mom because I have a series and it's called Sometimes Strange Anti-Aging Tips I Learned from My Japanese Mom. And yes, and the first video I posted was of her using a banana peel on her face. She was just literally rubbing a banana peel on her face. I was just with her one morning and she was just doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to film this. And so I was filming it. She started rubbing it on her forearms. And then later that night, I did like a PubMed search and I was like researching. I'm like, okay, what are the nutrients or benefits of bananas that can help the skin? And, I put together a video that showed my mom rubbing this banana peel on her face. And I kind of went and talked about the science behind the potential benefits of doing this. And it just skyrocketed, that video. I woke up the next morning, I got like thousands of new followers. It was pretty wild. I continued that with her really fun tips, and she has a lot of good ones out there.
That's great.
So Hadar, I got to tell you, man, I just pulled it up on TikTok because I'm a voyeur on TikTok, not a poster.
It's fun. It's fun to be a voyeur.
Yeah, no, it's totally fun to be a voyeur. So sometimes the problem is you end up being a voyeur and getting up and done. But sometimes there's good content here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, I mean, on this post, Hadar, it's not just talking about it. She actually has a graphic. You put a banana against banana peel and you talk about differential vitamins that are expressed and the fact that there might be antioxidants. And then you make it super fun. The video has her making a banana tea on top of it all.
So yeah, so she also makes banana tea. That was another video. And yeah, I once again talked about the benefits of the banana. And that was sort of like a mini series with her teas, because her first video on teas, she made onion skin tea. And she talks about the benefits of boiling the skin of fruits or vegetables just because the concentration of nutrients is apparently very high. So yes, that was the video on the banana skin tea.
That is great. So you heard it right here. You post about bananas and your audience will go bananas. I'm sure the bananas growing industry was also
We're full of dad
that.
jokes here, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yes.
This is why I love this podcast, by the way. I'm just laughing out loud in my car whenever I listen to you two like banter, like the most amazing dad joke content.
Thank you. I'll have my daughter listen to this episode. She makes fun of my jokes.
Dad jokes don't resonate with those that actually have a dad.
I know. Exactly.
Unfortunately.
Oh my gosh,
Mamina, I wanted to touch base on some best practices because now you've got some good experience over the years of posting on different platforms. What are some do's and don'ts for the beginner?
I don't think there's any like hard or fast rules, but some general things that I've learned is one, to really, this sounds cliche, but to really stay true to yourself, to really bring your authentic self forward, because you want the people who really appreciate you to follow you. You don't want them to follow this pretend version of you, because then it'll start to not be fun if you keep posting things that aren't really aligned with who you are.
Love it.
Yeah. And if you only have a few followers, it's fine. Those followers really, this is also brings me to another important point. It's really not also about followers. It's also about engagement too, because if people really like you for you, they really respect and listen to what you have to say. That itself can be very valuable. That is one. When you're posting, you also want to, I mentioned the word engagement. But there's other ways that you can also engage with your audience. You want to respond to comments. People may comment on your post. When you're on social media, you also want to engage in other people's posts, like their posts, comment on their post. People send you messages, you want to respond to their messages. And that somehow, I think, magically also like makes you more exposed as well. So keeping up the engagement. And, the other thing is just being consistent too. If you decide to pursue a social media presence, when I say consistent, have a consistent like posting timeline, because if you're posting here or there and then like drop for a couple weeks, with these social media algorithms, you can like gain momentum and traction and followers because they follow this pattern that you're in. And then when you're stopping this pattern, you can lose this momentum. And so that was what happened when I first joined TikTok. It was a paid program. The pay was so low, but I still wanted to do it because I wanted a reason for me to become more involved on TikTok. I had always been meaning to get more active on TikTok, but I had to post 5 days a week, which is a lot for 6 weeks.
Right.
5 days a week for 6 weeks.
I mean, and you're working full time too, right? So
Working full
that's a
time
lot.
too. So that was really tough. And I'll post like 3 days a week, but that was 5 days a week. But the people at TikTok, they were like, just keep doing it. Don't worry. You're going to see the magic happen. And yeah, before I knew it, one of these videos just went viral. My mom's video went viral, but it was kind of tough. And sometimes it can seem like you're kind of putting in all this work. It seems almost like sometimes it could be a thankless job. You're like giving so much to the world, I guess, because who knows who's
Yeah.
watching it. But many times you may not get a response. And so my recommendation is to just keep pushing through, because you just never know when you are going to reach that person or the people and who can really make it grow.
The takeaway
Yeah.
here is it's almost like entrepreneurship in many ways,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you just kind of do things and sometimes you don't even know if you're making an impact, and you're
Mhm.
perhaps even draining yourself a little bit and wondering like, gosh, was this the right thing to do? But I guess hindsight is always a soother if things, work well, but just goes to show probably really did need to enjoy this content. How do you keep
Right.
doing it without responses if you didn't otherwise, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That goes back to like doing things that are just more authentic and aligned with you. If it's stuff that you genuinely enjoy talking about and spreading information about, that will help keep you motivated to keep posting. Just
Yeah,
because, yeah,
exactly.
it can
Yeah.
get tough. It can get tough. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it sounds like exactly what we said in the beginning. It should be sort of an outward extension of what you like to do. Just like we mentioned before, you took that extra step, but that extra step is part of you. And if you stay true to yourself,
Mhm.
like you said, that makes a lot of sense to me. And
Mhm.
I want to ask you, because this is all kind of lovey dovey. This is all great. You got
Uh-huh.
to, we have some bananas and cute
Uh-huh.
mom videos going
Uh-huh.
around. And which I wanted to say, by the way, speaks again to your natural talent. You made an observation, which is really cool. People think like, she just took a video of her mom. No, she made an observation and kind of linked it to science. It's brilliant. But I want to ask some more serious, maybe cynical questions, but are serious
Sure.
to our listeners. All right.
Yeah.
So you're doing all this stuff. What did this
Mhm.
do to your practice? Okay, because we understand your
Mhm.
social media presence skyrocketed. You became, a lot of followers and meaningful kind of engagement, and that is great. Now,
Yeah.
what happened to your practice? Can you look back at the years that you just started posting and what your practice is looking like now?
My practice has grown. It has grown tremendously. And I do have to attribute that partially to my social media presence. I think also there's been a lot of word of mouth, the typical reasons why a practice would grow, but it has helped my practice. That's for sure.
Do you notice people coming in and saying, "Oh my gosh, I saw you on TikTok"?
Yes, I do.
That's a
Every
great feeling,
day.
isn't it?
It is a great feeling. And actually, what I really love about it is that I walk in the room and the patient is like, hi, like they act like they already know me. And it's such a great feeling
They kind of do, right,
to
Mamina?
walk into
In a
that
way.
warmth. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like they already feel like I'm their friend. So it already establishes a great like patient doctor foundation in a way. So
Totally.
it's really nice. Yeah.
It's absolutely totally nice, and I think that there's a certain trust. I think, and I think I spoke about this on this podcast. A lot of patients, especially in the first visit, they kind of audition you, right? You come in
Yeah.
and they'll show you like this spot that they had for years, and then you're like, okay, that looks benign, everything is good, and you're like, what are we really doing here? and then you're
Yeah.
about to leave, and then boom, I have a spot on between my legs, those kind
Yeah.
of questions come up,
Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
real issue. And you can really, really get over that part and really get to the real core of the visit. And then you have
Yeah.
more
Hmm.
time to actually spend on what matters. So I think
Yeah.
that's another kind of implicit advantage of having a social media presence where people come in, they already trust you, they know
Yeah.
what you stand for, they kind of feel like they got, like you said,
Hmm.
they know
Hmm.
you. And then so
Hmm.
you post a lot of stuff and people kind of get to know you. But with that comes a
Yeah.
risk. And that leads to my second cynical question. Can we
Uh-huh.
talk a little bit about medical legal stuff? Okay. So
Yes.
there's two aspects to it. I don't know if you post, for example, patients' pictures or any procedures that you do, like some people on social media. And also,
Yes.
are people kind of seeing you as target, legally speaking? I mean, we live in the US, right? And practice in the
Yeah.
US. So does that ever come into consideration?
Yes. Well, I know when I'm posting, if I'm ever posting a patient photo or video, I always mention this to the patient beforehand, make sure that there's also nothing that identifies the patient. So I'm just very cautious about that. And I think that also this is practice dependent, but I think it is good practice for each practice to have a proper photo consent or video consent that still can cover this avenue as well. To be honest, I work for practice. It's called Sanova Dermatology, and there's multiple practices. So I think Sanova has their own like photo consent, and I don't think it includes like consent for social media photos. So I always just make sure to double check with the patient that I have their permission. I do have verbal permission with them.
Well, I think that, we get lost a lot of time in the issue of consent. Many medical students come to me and like, yeah, they signed the consent. And I look at them and say, so what? Do they know what we're doing?
Yeah. Right,
Because
right,
that's
right.
what matters. So it sounds like
Hmm.
you got the order of things right. So I think this is fantastic. I wanted to ask you, if you had to do it all over again, is there anything you would do differently?
I would have posted even more during, I guess, 2020, 2021, when people were still home a lot.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, because the chances for growth, I think, were higher then. But I mean, there's always opportunities. Sorry, this is more of a piece of advice. If there's a new feature that comes out on Instagram or TikTok, like, oh, you can now use this special link in your stories or whatever, you always want to use that new feature because there's a chance that they'll push your posts to more people. That's just kind of a side note. But yeah, I would say if I were to do it over again, I would post more initially when people were home.
Gosh, I mean, it just goes to show you really do got to love this stuff, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
how long does it take you to make content now compared to, say, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago?
Well, yeah, that's a great question because it varies because I could get a video whipped up in a few minutes, but sometimes it can take me a couple hours to edit a video. And I would say I'm faster now than I was before, but what smart people do is hire an editing team or hire a separate editor to do their editing for them, which I do have. But okay, so I'm also nerdy and I like it. I like editing and whatever, doing all that fun stuff. To me, it's enjoyable. So unfortunately, it's very time consuming, but I am better at it now.
Well, it's just the reality of the situation. I mean, it's nice that you love editing. Well, Mamina, this has been an awesome time spent with
Oh
you.
my gosh, I love
One
this.
last question to ask you is what inspired you, and maybe it's a big question to ask, but what inspired you to think about integrative medicine and how was the integrative dermatology certificate program for you?
Yeah, I have always loved taking a more holistic, I guess, quote, natural alternative approach to healing. And that was actually, I was inspired to do that by my mom. Growing up, she would take these other approaches to, healing us if we had a fever. She'd give us this special Japanese concoction. It was like hot sake with a raw egg in it. And she would avoid Tylenol at all costs.
That's what
And
my
my
bartender does. Hey,
yeah, exactly. And so just like random things of, I know it's just funny. She was giving an 8-year-old like a cup of sake,
that's great.
but I'd wake up the next morning feeling like $1,000,000. I'm like, okay, she's doing something right. She'd make us sweat out our fevers. And, she would have like different like reflexology, like foot acupressure point books lying around the house. And so I was always intrigued. She was also a huge health nut. So, and my interest in nutrition, I think, came from her. And when it came to going to further education after college, I was toying between, allopathic conventional medical school versus naturopathic school. And I was really leaning towards naturopathic school. But I figured, okay, if I have my MD, I have more flexibility to venture into integrative medicine. So that's how it happened. And, my goal was to go into primary care and then do that integrative medicine fellowship at University of Arizona with Dr. Andrew Weil. That was like my plan. Like that's what I decided in college. And when I was in medical school and doing my internal medicine rotation, I was in a rheumatology rotation, and, there's a lot of autoimmune skin diseases, and I had such an affinity towards those patients with skin issues, and that made me want to look more into dermatology. And so after doing dermatology and hearing about the integrative dermatology certificate program, I'm like, okay, this couldn't be any more perfect sounding, just because I wanted to do more with integrative medicine.
Well, you're going to get to meet Andrew Weil at the Integrative Dermatology Symposium, so that can be another thing to take off the bucket list.
He was my idol.
Yes, no, absolutely. And he is to many. There's no question about it. But guess what? With your social media expertise, who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, Raja and I will still sit here making jokes to each other, and people will come in and say, hey, Mamina, she's my idol, So that will happen too.
We'll see. But yes,
our jokes may get staler, but the content will get nice.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you so much for joining us. And really, it was an enlightening conversation, especially for a novice such as myself, and I'm sure others, to give us the security, the confidence to say, hey, I can do this. And so thank you for doing that. And thank you for joining us. Hey, Raja, do you know where the integrative medicine movement started?
According to Google, since Google knows everything, Dr. Andrew Weil founded the Center for Integrative Medicine at the University of Arizona in Tucson back in 1994. Why do you ask?
Well, you know how we always try to get to the root cause? I think we need to go big for the fifth annual Integrative Dermatology Symposium. How about we do this? Let's meet at the Los Ventana Canyon Resort in Tucson, Arizona. Or you can join virtually from September 30th to October 2nd and hear from the world-renowned experts like Andrew Weil.
Exciting. And our theme is connecting mind, body, and spirit to take a more holistic approach to our patient care. What do you say?
Absolutely. I mean, where else can you get the latest on diet and dermatology, hypnosis, botanicals, common diseases, aesthetics, and other unique topics in dermatology with practical takeaways to start using in clinic right away?
So true. And let's not forget, we've got the new track for estheticians too. I think I'm going to need to call in a sick day or two before the symposium so I can enjoy the waterfall and trails on the resort, stargaze, play a round or two of golf or tennis, relax at the spa, and catch up with colleagues at the evening receptions.
Yes, that place is spectacular. Use our discount code POD25 at checkout for 25% off.